of which I'm a member. And in a subcommittee of the PAT, we gave unanimous support for the concepts within the Compassionate Change District, and the executive board is deciding on that this afternoon. We expect that they will support our concepts. And I also personally live within 6 blocks of the Central East Side, and go to the Central East Side all the time. So we have some serious concerns about just ESDs and bids in general. As you may have seen in the Western Regional Advocacy Project's report with the Berkeley Law Center in California, they really have been about privatized and public policing, criminalizing homeless people and excluding people from cities. These districts gentrify areas, and when we hear these concepts about or words about livability, security, or cleanup, we have to ask, for whom, right? When we talk about cleaning up trash or property, whose trash, whose property? And we're concerned that all must have a right to the city. And we have some serious reservations about these kind of public-private districts. With that said, and one other thing, major concerns and fears about the new opportunity zone and expected gentrification with billions of dollars pouring into Portland. With that said, I want to thank Commissioners Hardesty, Daly, and Fritz for really working with the community on making some significant amendments here. And one of the ones that I want to really highlight is we really need a firm, safe sleep camp tied to sanitation and lockers and services, because at the heart of this, if that falls through the cracks like what's happened with Right to Dream 2, none of this really means anything.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Diana Remby. I'm a staff member and street librarian at Street Books. I want to thank the Commissioners Daly, Fritz, and Hardesty for all your hard work on this process. Right now, I'd like to speak briefly to process around the whole ESD creation. Street Books is a bicycle-powered mobile library serving people who live outside. For the past 9 years, we've been out on the streets of Portland, bringing books, classes, and good conversation to folks forced to the margins of our city. For 8 of those years, we've run 2 regular shifts in the Central East Side, on the sidewalk in front of St. Francis Dining Hall and at the Martin Luther King Jr. Worker Center. For the past year, our headquarters has been on Southeast Stark in the St. Francis Park Apartments, so we are part of the Central East Side community. The consistent time on the streets of Portland has offered us a unique view into the lives of people who are unhoused in this city. Over the years, we've had thousands of conversations with our library patrons, many of whom we've known for many years. And while we're not always talking about the material circumstances of their lives, we spend much of our time talking about literature and ideas. It's clear that finding a safe place to sleep, means for regular hygiene, is an enormous challenge for people living outside. And of course, the big need for people living outside is stable, affordable housing. Our library patrons are part of the houseless community, and to be clear, the houseless community is a true community. Many of our library patrons have lived here for decades, some their entire lives, and they are one of the primary stakeholders in this conversation about the CEIC's proposal. They are residents of Southeast Portland, regardless of the structure or lack of it over their heads, and yet they've been entirely excluded in the process of making a plan that will affect them more than anyone else in the city. I'm going to run out of time, so we appreciate the stated goal of having representation on the board and the safety committee, but given the process leading up to the proposal of the ESD, we question both the viability of this actually happening as well as what the experience should look like if houseless people are brought onto the board. It feels like tokenism. We worry that the board proposal doesn't shift the balance of power on the board in any meaningful way. If you look at a quick glance at the makeup of the board, it shows that houseless folks will remain a small minority who will likely occupy a position they're very familiar with, which is that of having no power and being ignored.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner Fritz.
First of all, thank you for what Street Books does, and if anybody's not familiar with Street Books, go Google it and give them donations of books and or money. That's really helpful. I appreciate your concerns about the composition of the board. I note that the houseless individuals who would serve would be nominated by businesses and non-profits. So I want to go on the record as saying I hope that Street Books gets to nominate, and also that yes, you're right. I think with any new board, it's really important to have a good onboarding process and to make sure that particularly marginalized individuals feel comfortable being there. I remember a process we had at St. Philip Neri a few years ago, which was not at all welcoming for people who live outside. I hope that there's been some growth since then, and I'm just hoping that Street Books will continue to be a partner for those individuals to make sure that they succeed on the board.
Thank you, and I just hope that there will be a stated and spelled out process for how this will take place, both the nomination, but also the support of people once they're on the board, because it's really asks a lot of someone to come, bring all of their stuff, and sit in a meeting regularly and feel alone and unheard. And so I really, we can't support this until we understand how this is going to play out.
I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
raising that concern.
Next three
Next three, please.
are Fran Michelle, Randy Miller, and Brooke Kabanek. And they'll be followed by Dan Yates, Andy Munson, and Tim Merrily.
Very good. Good afternoon.
My name is Fran Michelle. I'm a homeowner in the Buckman neighborhood in a duplex that I own and rent. It's just a couple of blocks outside of the boundary of the proposed Enhanced Services District. I am opposed to the privatizing of public services, particularly the idea of private security forces, and to the lack of democratic and open process involved in the Central East Side Industrial Council's proposal. I had written something really short and concise, but then you throw all this new stuff, and part of my, so I may not, I'm less organized than I thought I was going to be. Part of my concern is that this feels very rushed. Although the CEIC has been working on it for 2 years, the Compassionate Change District Coalition has been working on this for months, and came up with a great proposal, I thought. And I appreciate that Commissioners Hardesty and Fritz and you, Daly, and your staffs have been working on this very hard for the last few weeks. But this still feels rushed. The public comment period is sort of undermined by not having actually had access to the document on which you're voting. We're making guesses. I think that one of my suggestions, although I oppose the idea of turning over public money, which is essentially taxation, to a private group. The ESD is, as the CEIC stresses, created, funded, and controlled by district businesses and property owners, and I don't think that truly democratic cities have a property qualification for genuine engagement. So that concerns me. Given that,
You have 30 seconds.
more money should be going to providing toilets, safe sleep spaces, 24-hour storage, and less money should be going to so-called security forces, ambassadors, safety, whatever it's called, the rent-a-cops. There should be crisis intervention experts with every one of those teams, not just a portion of the time.
Thank you.
And you should sunset it after a year or 6 months.
I apologize that we're on a 2-minute time frame. It's just we have over 50 people sign up and the council has a long agenda. And I know it's hard to get it in 2 minutes, and I appreciate people being diligent about the time frame. So thank you for that. Good afternoon.
Randy Miller, property owner at Central East Side.
Sorry, you turned your mic off. You need to
Randy,
hit that button.
Randy, just push the button.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good. Randy Miller, Central East Side property owner. About 35 years ago, the city asked me to partner with it on publicly owned land to develop the Brutus Row area. So I've been there as a city booster ever since. The only thing I really have to add here is the emphasis that this is a living document. And I think it's already been proven based upon what you all have indicated here today. And that's what we intend to do and continue. But I think that the real emphasis I'd like to be able to provide is the fact that all of you, and some of you have attended, and all of you know about the best practice trips that I've led over the last 32 years to take a look at public policy in other cities and what we can learn from them, either to support what we're trying to do or to avoid it. Our next trip, by the way, is to the Bay Area. A year ago, there was 2 polls that showed the 3 biggest concerns of Portland area citizens: houselessness, cost of housing, transportation. You all know that. There's been no area of the country that has been challenged more than the Bay Area in these 3 issues. They have been failing at an awful lot of them, but they're also the hotbed of innovation on the planet. And some brand new ideas are being initiated and generated down there. So we, other city leaders, which are all invited to attend, as you know, are going down there to take a look at what we can learn. And because this is a living document, when we get back, we'll continue to explore ideas like this to see what we can add to this, to add to the dynamics that have already been discussed yet, as you've heard in this testimony today. So I really hope that you believe in us and can support us for this ESD initiative.
Thank you, appreciate
And
it.
I did it in less than 2 minutes.
You did. Good afternoon.
Hi, hello Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners, thank you for having me here. My name is Brooke Kabatic, I'm with SVP Properties and we manage the Lucas Building, which is in the Central East Side. I was here a year ago, testified for the safety of the Central East Side, expressed urgent concern for the users of the district. Since that time, I've been assaulted, a man was stabbed across the street from the building, our building, and in another occurrence, one of our tenants who was attending the outside tables, we have restaurants on the bottom floor, across the street during the dinner hour, saw a street brawl with like 6 people, and he's a big guy. He went over to go break it up, and as he's doing that, finds that a man is wielding like a 7-inch hunter's knife. So where he thinks he's doing something really great to, go help people and just eliminate the danger, he leaves that day just shaking in fear that like one wrong move and he could have been stabbed or seriously injured or killed. So this ESD to us expresses, significant impact in the safety of the users of our building, the patrons, the unhoused. We're across the street from City Team Ministries. Everybody needs this to be able to just kind of maintain and feel safe in the neighborhood. So we're definitely for the ESD, and we urge you to for the ESD also. So.
Thank you, appreciate it, both of those. Next 3, please, Carl.
Are Dan Yates, Andy Munson, and Tim Merrily, and they'll be followed by Book Nyers, Kimberly Mason, and Kat Latimer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Yates. Why don't you go through this?
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. As a man, a few words. I just want to say I support the ESD. I've worked on it for 2 years. I'm a board member of the Central East Side. I hope you all support it. I think I have nothing to really add to the great arguments that have already been made. So thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You spoke about, there you go.
Just leave the mics on when you come up. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andy Munson and I manage my family's building in the Central East Side. My great aunts, the Sjogren sisters, were well-known dressmakers in the Portland area, and the building I manage has been in our family since 1925. May and Ann Sjogren are now buried at Riverview Cemetery at the end of the Selwood Bridge, where I visit from time to time to take in Portland's history. My experience in the Central East Side started back in 2003, when for a summer job my dad hired me to demo the building. It was a gritty area at the time and a gritty job, but soon it was transformed and 3 retail showrooms popped up on Grand Avenue, bringing life to the area and sparking some big change. Tillicum Crossing now connects pedestrians to the east side, and many of the rougher buildings are being renovated. Over the years, we have seen businesses successfully grow out of our space and the neighborhood transform block by block. Recently, there's been a shift. I have been harassed while cleaning up graffiti. We've had people defecate by our doors, and there have been 3 attempted break-ins. Conversations with the overworked police don't yield any change. We desperately need help. It's not too late to reverse this shift. With the Enhanced Services District, we can make the area safer, align those in need with assistance, and reduce criminal element that has no place in this city. My dad, the man who introduced me to this area, passed away in August. I took his warm coats to the City Team shelter on Grand Avenue to help give back to the community. It's time the Central East Side gets some help to preserve my dad's legacy and those that came before him. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Merrill. I'm an architect and I volunteered years ago to work on Dignity Village, and as a result of that positive experience, I came back and worked a couple of years ago on the R2D2 site over in the Central East Side. Spent a year or so working on that, and as a result, it failed, and I've been kind of in a funk since then because I really thought the amenities that were being offered was what we really needed. So I took a tour of the R2D2 site at the new location, and along with a bunch of members of the board of Central East Side. And I found it really encouraging that they are enthused to do something over there that actually is successful. And so I would like to offer my plea that you take a look at at this seriously and pass it. I think this is a great opportunity to make a statement on the east side that would be beneficial to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, all three.
Mr. Merrill,
Commissioner Fritz.
thank you so much for all you did to help try to get the Third and Harrison site to work, and I very much appreciate your ongoing engagement. I'm glad you got to go see the new site.
Thank you. Next three, please, Carl.
Next three are Book Nearies, Kimberly Mason, and Kat Latimer. And they'll be followed by Emily Gilbert, Claude Gilbert, and Mike O'Mahony.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Neris. I'm a precinct committee person with the Democratic Party, lead the Basic Needs and Human Rights Study Group, and sit on the platform committee with the Multnomah County Democrats. We recommend that the City Council strengthen its resolve for a compassionate change district and resist any effort